If you enjoy the subject matter of these podcasts, then you would definitely enjoy any of the 3 Patreon discussion groups that are available. You can read about these groups by going to theinfinitesparkofbeing.com and clicking the participate button. We also offer a free meditation group every other Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. To learn exact dates, check any of the Infinite Spark of Being socials. There should be a link tree with the information in the profile. This is a community of everyday people who are interested in living with a deeper understanding of spiritual practice and how it can be applied in a practical sense to our everyday lives. So join us. Welcome to the Infinite Spark of Being podcast. My name is Keith Welsh, and this is gonna be a long one. I debated releasing an episode as an additional episode to Monday's episode, but then because something happened, and the more time I spent with it, the more thoughts I had on it, and then kind of decided I'm just gonna do a regular episode and this will come out on Monday. As well as incorporate this month's theme, so to speak, like a whole what will be going into on that first Wednesday group. So I'm just gonna kind of roll it all together because it does kind of go together. First of all, we'll say this. So for the next couple Patreon groups, the first, second, third, we will be talking about superconsciousness, otherwise known as the divine mind, otherwise known as the higher self. You can look at that a lot of different ways. You can look at it as our connection to God, that sort of thing. You could look at it as your connection to the higher self, the Atman, or you could simply call it the party that knows better. Or as Florence Scovel Shinn called it, the realm of good ideas. So what we've got now is 3 minds. We've got a subconscious, the operating system outside of the conscious awareness that's really revealing the world to you. It's revealing a curated reality to you. You are seeing things the way you see them because of the subconscious. This will come into play later in this episode when we talk about karma. Not that this episode is about karma, I promise it's not. But it's what we are attracted to, what we have an aversion to is going to come into play. And when we're talking about the divine mind, that's definitely a thing. So then we have the subconscious, that's the operating system. And then we have, so if the subconscious reveals the world to you, it is a manifesting your perceptions, the way you regard, understand, and interpret. So when we're talking about manifesting, that's what we're talking about. Law of attraction, what you are attracted to, that also plays back into the subconscious. Now, the conscious mind, those are the thoughts that you are aware of, the ones that you believe that you are deciding to think, the opinions that you believe that you are having because you are just such a critical thinker. Well, if you've listened this long enough, you know it's not necessarily the case. But the conscious mind's role is to elaborate, judge, evaluate, speak on, talk about the world as it is manifesting before you out of the subconscious mind. So your perception of it that's coming out of the subconscious is being elaborated on by the conscious mind. Now we have the divine mind, which is that piece of you, and I've done episodes on this in the past, but since the second Wednesday this month, we'll be getting into the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This is where the Gita begins to get a little mystical and a little, strange for some people. So if you are interested in that, I highly recommend you do the $20 to check out the group that we're doing, the Insight group on the second Wednesday. But so the divine mind is the mind of possibility, good ideas. Now, how many times in your life have you had the thought, experienced the thought of, you know what I ought to do? I ought to da-da-da-da-da. That's a really good idea. But then the next thought is, well, you can't do that. That's not going to happen. That's not going to work. And here's why. The divine mind is this thing. It's your higher self. It's divinity trying to speak to you. And look, this is possible. But due to your subconscious mind's habits and your conscious mind kind of, it coming out of the subconscious as elaborating. That's the, like, Florence Scovel Shinn in the book The Game of Life and How to Play It said, she called it the old derelicts. The conscious mind, which is the old derelict thinking of, like, whoa, we can't do that because I'm just not this and the world's not that. That's your conscious mind. Or some people call it the carnal mind, this very base level, fucking, like, fearful thing. If you're reading the Gita, you could see Arjuna as a representation of the conscious mind and Krishna as a representation of the divine mind, right? So if we go back and start talking about this as an allegory, here we are again, right? Jesus allegorically between, like, Jesus and the devil. Jesus is the higher self, devil is the lower self. There's a lot of ways we can look at this, right? So the divine mind is that piece of us that is more positive. It believes certain things, but it's the conscious mind that always goes, well, hold on. That brings us to what I really wanted to do an episode on. So anyway, if you want to talk more about divine mind, the first Wednesday of every month, we do the journey group. So you're beginning your journey. You want to start talking about the divine mind, join us, and for $20 you can join in. Just be sure you give me your email address and we can, look at that. Go on the website, PayPal, Venmo, send me a DM, whatever, we'll talk about it. Anyway, so if you've ever listened to the synchronicity episode, you know that I have a synchronicity in my life that keeps showing up in the form of white lights of some sort. I'm not going to go too far into that because I really want to talk about what my experience was this week. And I believe that it was, so if today is, so it was Monday evening, I guess. Yes, it was a Monday evening. And you listened to episode 139 where we went to Casadega in Central Florida, met with a spirit medium named Reverend Margaret Schmidt. I played some of the recording of our meeting. She actually told us to record it. And she said a lot of things. There's no way for her to know them, and I will say this. At this point, since episode 139, we're in like 159. There's other things that she said that I didn't know, that you're not privy to, that came true. And she was right. And it's wild. She said that she saw us in a house where we can see a big river and the ocean, and that's exactly where we are now, in a house on the Intracoastal where we can see the ocean from our dock. Those of you that don't know, the Intracoastal waterway looks like a big river, especially where we live. It's very, very wide where we live. We participated in the CE5 protocol by Dr. Stephen Greer, and if you've ever seen any of his documentaries, especially when CE5, downloaded the app, tried it, the protocol for essentially calling beings from other dimensions, other worlds, other craft. It's a UFO, UAP thing. We did not see anything in the sky, but I did see something in the woods. A big white orb. And then that evening I had a wild experience that, again, if you want to listen to that, episode 139. But, so I've been doing this CE5 protocol every time we go out to this dock at night and sit and look at the stars. I always have my little stargazer app on. He's like Skyview or something, and always looking at stars and looking at constellations. And yeah, I'm looking for something to move. If I'm honest, I'm looking for something to move. I've had experiences in the past. My mother had experiences. My girlfriend, her and her father, together with a bunch of people in Texas, had an experience in broad daylight. I recently had an experience with something in the sky, actually literally on the stretch of road that I'm on right now talking on, this section of A1A. That's funny. So the other night, we were sitting on the dock, and I'm looking at stars, and I'm staring at this star, and then 4 stars kind of come into view around it. And they don't move immediately. Now, it was the time of day where it wasn't quite dark, but it was getting dark. So it was just after sunset, and all of a sudden so I thought, oh, well, they're just, I didn't think this, but I probably assumed on some level, well, it's just stars coming into view because the sun's going down. Well, then they started to move. 3 kind of spread out into different directions, and 1 moved across the sky. Not very quickly, not very slowly, just at a cruising pace, and they looked like little stars. They weren't super bright, they weren't really dim, they were just, I don't know, like regular ass stars. And I saw the first one start to move, and I said, so Christy, I was like, did you see that? Like, do you see that? She's like, yeah, I see it, it's moving. And I was looking around, I'm like, this fucking airplanes, they're not blinking, there's no tail, there's no trail. And then, so that was 4 that I saw. I tracked 1, and Christy kind of focused on the 3, and we're like, that was really wild. And to kind of, long story short, I saw 12 total. Which was a lot. Like, I had to think about it. I was like, well, I had to count, like, fuck, that was 12? Some of them would move, they'd come into view, they'd move, they'd start cruising, and then disappear, and then reappear along like a different, like along the same track. What's really interesting is right before that, I did that whole CE5 protocol stuff, and then I was staring at this funny looking cloud, and I said, show me something. And then I looked up, and that's what happened. So this went on for a very long time. Like I said, 12. We saw 12 total. After that group had seen 1 at a time, moving all different directions. Like, one of them, I had the thought, do something different, and I could have sworn it wiggle wobbled, like it wobbly, like, I don't know, side to side. So go inside, and I posted that thing in my story, like, hey, keep doing it. If you've dabbled with the CE5 protocol, just keep doing it. And then I went to work and spoke to a friend of mine there that's a pilot, and he's like, I don't know what the hell it is. Some people had mentioned satellites. I've got friends that are very logical, and I told one of them, because I was like, I saw this crazy thing. He's like, man, but he's very much an Occam's razor guy. Like, the most likely answer is the most likely answer. So he was like, well, what if it was a satellite? It could have been satellites. I was like, yeah, it could have been. And he follows a lot of the space stuff pretty closely. And a couple days before, like, I guess SpaceX had released satellites. And so I started just researching satellites. I downloaded a bunch of apps. That night, I downloaded an app that didn't indicate that there was any satellites nearby. In that moment, I actually did it. Because I was like, are these satellites? Because here's the thing. I am a believer in a lot of things, but I'm also very skeptical. And the reason I am a skeptic and not cynical, is that, well, cynicism is just lazy, snarky shit. Skeptical is like, you want to know the truth, so you kind of want to rule everything out before you go, oh, okay, so that was that. But it's very interesting. Feels I did my due diligence on the satellite thing. I woke up morning, was still thinking about it. My girlfriend Christy was like, yeah, she's like every time I close my eyes I can see these things moving. Then went to work, talked to my friend, talked to my other friend. Then that evening, yesterday evening, saw 2 airplanes. And I see airplanes all the time. We all do. They're clearly airplanes. They were side by side, going south to north. And then I'm sitting out there, and I see one of these things again. And it's moving, like, towards these 2 planes. And then it just kind of goes away. And I'm like, what in the fuck is happening out here? But I woke up this morning, and I think up until this morning, I was still like kind of on the fence, like, I don't know what the fuck it was. But today I've kind of decided, like, it definitely wasn't satellites. Like, that many satellites just all moving in crazy directions, like, that seems nuts. Going in and out of visibility. And now here's the thing. You could say, yeah, it's possible because I read this thing, I Googled this, then I saw that, and then I know what I saw. I think there's a really good UFO documentary on Prime that's like, I know what I saw. And it's, you just, when you see weird stuff, you know you saw weird stuff. I also understand people being like, well, you know, could be this, could be that. So what this kind of brings me to, well, okay, one of the things that, you know, when you study the Vedas, when you look at, like, you always land in this place of non-duality. And I don't remember the quote, but Stephen Greer uses it a lot. Somebody had, like, how many minds are there in the universe? And this guy said there's only one. And if you download that CE5 protocol app, there's recordings. And in one of them, Dr. Stephen Greer is giving a talk on consciousness. And it's so good. He goes, consciousness is not... If you believe that you would benefit from working with me one-on-one on grief and loss, anxiety, or ruminating thinking, then shoot me an email or direct message. Or if you're interested in learning about meditation and how it can transform your reality and change your life, then again, please reach out through email or direct message. Thank you. So just download it and listen to it. But it says something like, consciousness is not that you see, it's that by which you are able to see. I don't know, I'm probably fucking it up. It's really good, and he makes a good point. There's only one consciousness when you get outside of just cognitive stuff, but that we all share this thing, and that these beings are much more evolved than us. At one point, we had a different body and different way of thinking, and I'm not even talking about Neanderthal, I'm talking about much farther back. Yes, I'm one of those people. I don't think Rudolf Steiner was completely wrong. And if you don't know who Rudolf Steiner is, come on, kids. Madam Helena Petrova Blavatsky is going to come up here in this podcast. Rudolf Steiner is going to come up. And does Rudolf Steiner get a little wacky? Yes, but I would like to point out that he was the first person to say, hey, this Adolf Hitler guy, not cool. So he saw it before everybody else did. Let's give him some credit, guys. He noticed that shit was askew. But so that would be you consciousness, intention, all that. And I think that there, and I've mentioned before that I want to do a UFO UAP episode. And the more I think about it, the more I just want to do something where I pull everything together and go, okay, here's what I know. And the reason I think that the way I think about it, the way I understand it is maybe a little more unique, is because I didn't just dabble in the Vedas, I really dove in. I didn't just dabble in paranormal, I really dove in. When it comes to the UFO phenomena, again, I like eyeballs deep in it. And I'm lucky enough to have had really great teachers and really great experiences, and lucky enough to have had the fuck it, let's try it attitude towards things. Where a lot of people get passively interested in something for like 48 hours and they're like on the next thing. But I can draw connections between all this stuff, but I have to tell you, it's so hard to verbalize. So however I do this, I'm gonna have to write it out, because right now, as I'm trying to do it now, I'm like, oh God. And it's probably hard for me because I'm not somebody who can just say something. I need you to understand why it's true and all that. It's like that boss of mine that said, Keith, I don't need to know. He goes, what did he say to me? He asked me a very simple question. I started rattling on, and he goes, Keith, I just want to know what time it is. I don't need to know how to build a fucking clock. But I want you to understand how to build a clock so that you can truly know what time it is. But I have a lot of opinions about the UFO, UAP phenomena. And I will say this, right now, this phenomena is in the popular culture. For people to deny its existence and these events, I understand it. The ego gets involved in the way that it needs everything to remain solid and fixed, just, the mind. And then things start to dissolve and whittle away, and what you thought you knew becomes very confusing. So I understand that. Not everyone has the mindset like me that was like just so out of his fucking head that he didn't care if anything made sense. But this phenomena is real. I do believe that some things that we see as Americans, as Brazilians, whoever, the people that are seeing a lot of it, mainly near oceans. Most of it is near oceans, though desert Air Force bases have a lot of the activity, as well as nuclear bases and things. But I believe that's because some of it is re-engineered or reverse-engineered technology. I don't even want to call it alien, because, is it alien? Are we alien? I don't know what that means, because I don't necessarily believe that this stuff is from another star system. Some of it might be, probably is, but they're traveling interdimensionally, which is a different situation. But I do believe that there have been breakaway civilizations. I do believe that there are beings of some sort that live within the earth. And people poo-poo these ideas, but to be fair, you haven't done any reading, you did a few cursory Google searches, you watched Ancient Aliens, decided it was bullshit. Well, I'm gonna tell you, Ancient Aliens is fucking preschool. Fuck Ancient Aliens. A really good book, if you want to think about it in terms of maybe a possible breakaway civilization, read Operation Trojan Horse by John Keel. He goes through all of these newspaper articles from the 1800s, even, I think maybe before that, where there were all these quote-unquote airship sightings. These blimps were being sighted everywhere. And this is before people are just copycatting, sharing information. This isn't like social media. We think in really screwy terms, because we're like, oh, this person's just they're clout chasing. People weren't like that back then. These people, when they signed an affidavit, it meant something. But they were encountering these individuals in airships all over the country, in a certain route through the country. These sightings were happening on certain days, and Keel mapped it down to times of the year, window areas. Florida's a big window area. Obviously, we were right in the ocean, and a lot of the stuff does seem to be coming out of the ocean, which goes back to, is it within the earth? Is it in the ocean? I don't know. But the way a lot of these individuals, I guess they're people that they encountered in these airship sightings, looked, some people said Asiatic or Oriental, which I don't know if that's a okay word anymore or not, but the word Oriental got used a lot. Some sort of Asian features, and that could mean Indian, shit, could mean Russian, I guess, but that can, narrow eyes. And some people call it dusky skin or dark skin, tan. Even in Mothman Prophecies by John Keel, when he really talks about MIBs, Men in Black, as well as, I can't remember the individual that did all of that those really great books on the Men in Black phenomena. A lot of those get characterized as having some kind of Asian features. But in Operation Trojan Horse, a lot of people describe him that way. What's fascinating about that is that Helena Petrova Blavatsky, again, if you don't know who she is, and you're maybe one of these, pseudo social media witches, you're into like paganism and witchcraft, but you don't know who she is, do your homework. Come on, kids. Wake up. Sharpen up. Her books are completely indecipherable gobbledygook. You have to act. She was the head of the Theosophical Society, and she was a theosophist. There is a theosophical glossary that is required in order to understand her books. I have it. It is difficult, but a lot of the, like what she called the masters or the Mahatmas, she described them as being Indian or dark-skinned with Asian features. Some people don't know if they were actual people she met with. This was like channeled stuff or whatever. There's a lot of interesting stories about her. She was a wild lady. She was absolutely a necessary figure in the Western spiritual occult movement. Last podcast on the left, if you're looking for it, does a really funny breakdown of Helena Petrova Blavatsky. They're really great because they are believers, but they make fun of a lot of things, which I'm always a big fan of. Because I believe a lot of stuff, but I also kind of like poking fun at things. So that's, to me, maybe part of the breakaway civilization idea. I don't know. There are also ideas, I believe, I'm sorry if I'm incorrect, but Christopher Mellon, who used to work for the government. Here's the thing you gotta look out for. A lot of these ex-government people that are now speaking on UFO, UAP activity, like Luis Elizondo, come on, man. Like, you expect us to believe you now? Christopher Mellon, they have this narrative of good and evil. And recently, while listening to Tucker Carlson, yes, I do listen to Tucker Carlson. Am I a Tucker Carlson acolyte? No, I don't agree with everything that he says, but I do think he's an honest person to the best of his ability. He has an interesting take on things at times, but I'm also part of that unique breed of human being that can disagree with somebody and then not want to cancel them or kill them, or just not listen to them. I'm actually not afraid of ideas that are different from mine. I suggest some of you decide to get in on that too. If you have a strong aversion to it, let's look at it. Anyway, so one of the things he says that he spoke to government officials that are really convinced or under the impression or have been told or have knowledge that this is an angel demon situation. Those are words that are used in the Bible to describe these forces of good and evil, and that Earth is essentially a soul farm. A lot of people on the web are talking about that idea. Those of us that have studied anything just think, well, no shit, Sherlock. What did you think this was? If you follow the Bible's reasoning around it, I guess it does get a little weird. I don't believe the Bible's completely incorrect when it comes to certain things. But the idea of a soul farm, that we are essentially these meat suits that are like raising souls. But yeah, if you think of what the soul is, the soul traveling with this subtle body, transmigrating from birth to birth, working out its karma, maturing and moving on. Yeah, that's what that is. I'm not like taken aback by that. But if you are of the Judeo-Christian persuasion where you believe that the soul is just born with the body, which is what a lot of people believe, that your soul didn't exist until you had a body, and that soul is unique to you, and that it's connected to this body, then that's a strange thing to think about. But if you understand the idea of reincarnation, working through karma, taking the earth school, as they call it, then that's not that strange of an idea. But back to just the paranormal or the unexplainable, I've had a lot of experiences. This last year has been very wild. It's been like a ramp up of it. Sometimes you bring people into your life and they really amplify certain signals, and it's good. It's good, and that, I believe, is what's going on with me. But like, I did the episode where I told you guys about the light flickering outside my dad's window where he died. There's a lot of, I'll say this, since being at Casadega, there has been a lot of activity. I've been having experiences, Christy, obviously. I think that, some of the dumbest things that people say are, well, that's just placebo, and, well, you were looking for it. To just the placebo, that's obviously stupid, because that just means, your mind did it instead of this drug. Well, no shit. To me, that makes it more interesting, than less interesting. I mean, it's obviously much more interesting. But when it comes to, well, you were looking for it. Yeah, so I was seeing somebody once, and I saw these two lights in the sky that kind of very low cruised over this building. I said, man, that's crazy. I saw these lights, and she goes, well, of course you saw them. You're looking for them. If I have to tell you why that's a dumb thing to say, then, I don't know, go listen to Barstool Sports. But, think about this. So there's this idea in Buddhism when it comes to the siddhis, the powers, right? The yogic powers, that you develop. In Hinduism, same thing. They believe in siddhis. Buddhism, obviously. And in Buddhism, or at least in Tibetan Buddhism, I speak for that you have to be of a certain karmic predilection, or so your karma has to be at a certain place in order to see them, to witness this thing. That can sound strange, but hear me out. If karma is the mind's predisposition to attraction and aversion, okay. Well, the night that we saw all of these lights in the sky, I live next to where we live is next. There's a boat ramp next door where they put boats in and out. There's a little park. Loud music playing. People are fighting. And we're just staring up, watching these lights. And my karma was as such, our karma together was as such, that we were attracted to the idea of sitting on a dock and staring at stars. We are attracted to the idea of the unseen. We are attracted to the idea of spiritual work. We are attracted to those ideas, those concepts, and we have an aversion to drinking and partying in a boat ramp parking lot and listening to loud music at 9 o'clock at night. Due to that aversion, I have these other attractions, and those other attractions set me up to see other things, to see things differently, to look for it. The people in the parking lot in the place next door have an attraction to being the way they were being. That's their attraction. And even whatever they're fighting about, they obviously have an aversion to it, but their attractions set them up in a situation where that's their attractions. You see what I'm saying? Like their attraction to certain things set them up to receive an aversion to this other thing. It's push and pull and positive and negative and a lot of energetic stuff. But yeah, Does my attraction to certain things set me up for other things that I'm averse to, but it brings those aversions into my life? Yeah. So that's what in Buddhism, when they say if your karma is a certain way, then you will see certain things. If you're looking for it, you'll find it. The mind sees what it's looking for. When you think of karma in terms of like, you know, if you still have this idea of like, well, yeah, you see this stuff because you're out there looking for it, so your mind's going to tell you it's there, or my mind's going to show me it, or it's going to show itself to me. You won't believe that, but you'll believe in the idea of the law of attraction and manifestation, where if you set your mind to something, you achieve it because your mind begins to look for the possibilities by which that thing is possible. What's the difference? What you are conscious or unconscious of plays a factor in this. And for those of you that are asking, I did film some of it, and none of it shows up. I believe it was probably too dark, too far away. Zoomed in as much as I could, tried everything, and it just looked ridiculous. You know, another time I saw 3 red metallic things flying in a formation and not breaking formation and flying at the same speed over my head while I was getting my car after a run, and I pulled my phone out and I took photos of it and videos of it, and it doesn't show up on any of them. I was with somebody who saw the same thing, and what's interesting about that is like I got in the car and I looked at the picture, I'm like, dude, it didn't even show up. And he was just like, yeah, and he starts talking about something else. Like, it wasn't even interested. Here's the thing, he wasn't even interested in the fact that this was happening, that there's 3 rays. Like, oh, that's weird, and like just gets in the fucking car. Like you don't think it's weird that, like, that's what I mean, that's a karmic thing, you know? My karma is as such, and it's not good or bad, it just is as such that I am looking for this thing. And why am I looking for it? I'm looking for it as I've projected into the universe, that it keeps me going. Because it's like, just when I have these, whether it's been a mystical experience, a paranormal experience, or a supernatural experience, it's just more confirmation that, okay, like, I'm on the right track and this is real. At the same time, do I need it to be real for it to improve my life? No, I just need to believe in it. You know, and if you are happier believing that 12 random lights moving in different directions, blinking in and out of visibility is satellites, then I encourage you to follow that train of thought. I know what it felt like for me, but all we're experiencing anyway is the mind. It was a strange thing to see. I mean, I've seen planes and all sorts of stuff, and satellites, and I believe one time I saw Starlink, which was weird. So, I don't know, man. It's interesting. This is all very interesting. It was a wild experience. It's very cool, and the further I get away from it, the more it settles in as being beautiful. And it's cool. And we're going to get into the divine mind, the realm of good ideas, that higher self. We're going to get into how to contact that, make that more readily available to you as an option. And that's definitely what we'll go over in the Patreon group. So anyway, that's my story. It was weird. That night we saw 12 lights. Last night I saw 1. And I'm just going to continue to go out there and look at the sky. I encourage you to do it too if you're interested in that. Watch the CE5 documentary. Download the app. Try it. Don't just try it once and go, well, it doesn't work because I tried it and nothing happened. Or ghosts aren't real because I've never seen one, while you're sitting there staring at your fucking TV, watching the game, talking about how you've never seen anything. Yeah, because you're never fucking outside looking up, dude. you don't try anything. You don't open your fucking mind. You just sit there with an Xbox controller in your hands and talk about how I don't believe in God. Anyway, I love you. I love you. I love you. Bye. If you enjoy this content and would like to support the ongoing creation of this content, go to the website theinfinitesparkofbeing.com and explore the many ways to do that, such as the shop button, which takes you to the bookstore as well as the apparel store. Also, click the about button, read a little bit about me, see what I have to offer you. And don't forget to check out the Patreon tiers if you'd like to join a spiritual community of everyday people with not so everyday interests. Go ahead and check out the participate button on that website. Also, do not forget, we now have a free meditation group every other Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to know more about that, check out any of the Infinite Spark of Being social media pages. There's a link tree there with a button. So see you then.